Welcome Bitcoin friends, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Today we're going to look at the Bitcoin charts and do some TA. We'll look at the longer term time frames and the shorter term time frames. We'll also look at the Bitcoin futures chart and also the Bitcoin dominance chart. If that sounds interesting, stay tuned. Let's get into the charts. So I want to start here looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart here, which is the one on top, and this is the Bitcoin spot price on the bottom. And this is the monthly time frame. And I just want to point out here, this is back in 2017, where the Bitcoin dominance started dropping, came all the way down from a 96% dominance to around 50%. And this was a 48% drop. And then we got our first green monthly candle here, where this red line is. We started going back up. And then this was the peak for Bitcoin on the spot price here. And then we started coming down again with the dominance. And in the current cycle here, we can see the Bitcoin dominance started coming down here at the start of the year. You can see we've had a 46% drop, something comparable to the 2017 cycle. And it looks like we're putting in our first green monthly candle here on the dominance. And I just want to compare these two. So we can see when we put in this first green candle here, that Bitcoin got this red candle on the price action. We did dip down. And if we just move that red line, we can see it was a decent dip, around 4,800 to 3,000. So more than a 30% dip. Bitcoin currently has had this correction, this 50% correction here. And if we were to do a similar thing here, perhaps this monthly candle, which will be closing in around a week's time, perhaps this is the bottom of the pullbacks, similar to what it was here in 2017. And after that, we see the Bitcoin dominance go up as well as the price as we finish this bull run. So we could be seeing a similar thing here. Perhaps when we open our next candle in July, we might continue to see Bitcoin dominance come up here, as well as the price as we finish off this bull run. The second chart I want to talk about here, this is Bitcoin on the weekly. And in the last video, we did all of these fib extensions here. And we noticed how the golden pocket areas all sort of lined up with each other here. So we have the all-time high in 2017 down to the bear market low and the 1.618 extension here. And we also have this pullback here from the run in 2019 around 14k down to the stock market crash, and the fib extension here, the 2.618. And we also have this run up here from when we went from 10k all the way up to the peak. And we see that golden pocket coming in the same area. And finally, we have this run here from 43k to 64k. And if we do the fib extension downwards, we see that golden pocket area here, the 1.618 also. So all of these sort of line up with each other. And I've just got this box drawn here to capture all of these golden pocket areas. And I think this is an area where we are going to get support, and I don't think we're going to drop below this box here. And just zooming in here, this is on the 2-week, as I said, and it's just interesting to look at the ranges here compared to on the way up here. We can see the bodies of the candles here, we're in this range. We can see we've stayed in this range in this current consolidation. You can see we did try to break above, but we ended up closing the 2-week inside this box. So this 2-week candle did just open this week, so we won't see a new one until the 5th of July. I think once we can close a candle above this box, then we can see we might have a big move heading towards this box here, which also caught this sideways action. This is on the 2-week chart. There would be more resistances looking on the smaller time frames, but looking at a big picture on the 2-week, I think this is a good way to look at it. You can see how well it captured this top here and smoothed out all these ups and downs. And it just gives us a good idea of these ranges. Next chart I want to look at here is we've been talking about that death cross. In the last video, we showed all the different death crosses that we've had. We've had 8 death crosses in the history of Bitcoin. And I just want to compare the one that we had in 2014 to the current one that we've just had here. So the one in 2014, we can see we did have a 51% drop here before we had that death cross. We can see when we did get that cross here, Bitcoin fell another 23% over 3 days. and then we had this run up here, and we ended up going up around 97% over the following 51 days after this bottom. And just comparing that to the current death cross action, we can see we fell 51.37%, very similar here, both 51%, and the actual death cross happened here, and 3 days later it looks like we're putting in a bottom here, and this drop after the death cross was a 21% drop, also quite comparable here. So if we were to do a similar thing and perhaps do this 100% move over 51 days, that would take us back to around 57,000 sometime in early to mid-August. This is just a comparison. I'm not saying this is exactly what's going to happen. It's just to compare price action to what's happened in the past. We can also see here in 2014 we had this downward sloping trend line with several touches, and once we broke above this trend line, that's when we really started heading up. And if we do a similar thing on this chart, see we have this downward sloping trend line with 2 touches now. So I think once we can get above this trend line, perhaps then we might start to move upwards quite quickly. You can also see that this yellow 50-day moving average here also acted as resistance similar to this trend line, and when we broke above both of those here, we can see we went up. So we'll also be watching this 50-day moving average here as we continue to come down, and we'll look for when we do get above that moving average as a sign that we might start moving up. And this is Bitcoin on the daily again, and I just want to point out where we topped out here in the 60,000 range. We had all this bearish divergence here on the top. Here we had bearish divergence, lower highs on the RSI, high highs on the price, also between these points and also between these points. So we did have that divergence building up here on the top, and then eventually we did have this big drop down. And to compare it on the other side here, we're also getting divergence, but this is bullish divergence. And we can see here the RSI has been going up with these higher lows. This one here is a higher low compared to this one when you zoom in on it. We've also been getting lower lows on the price action. So we're also building up this bullish divergence here with many lower lows on the price and higher lows on the RSI. So we might do a similar thing to where we topped out, but heading in the opposite direction. So this is a good sign of that we may be bottoming out. We did have this quick wick down to the 28.8. We did drop that below that 30k range. We can see how quickly it got bought up, and we only spent a few hours below 30k. And we also have these triangles drawn here. Just have this yellow triangle connecting the bottoms here from this 30k low. And if we zoom in on the 4 hour, this was actually the highest peak after this low. So I have that connecting the top and also this touch point here. And we can see we've come up and tested this yellow triangle here. We have got rejected currently, and perhaps we might come back down here for one more touch before trying to break up, or we might just hover in the middle here before moving back up. I do think the bullish signs are there, and I do think we are going to move higher. Also have this red triangle drawn here, just taking it from this low, basically a triangle within a triangle. This is more of a horizontal line here instead of a ascending line. So this is a descending triangle, and I just have it connecting the tops here. So this could be another trend line to watch to look to break. And these triangles can be drawn many different ways. Also just have these green trend lines connecting the overall tops and the overall bottoms. And onto the Bitcoin futures chart, we also have this triple bullish divergence here, higher lows on the RSI and lower lows on the corresponding points on the price action. And I have similar triangle drawn here with these 2 touch points. And this point here is higher than this point. And we can see we're also getting resistance here, trying to break this triangle again. So perhaps we might spend the weekend here, maybe come down for one more touch point, and then during the week try to break up. But it would be better, I think, if we did break this triangle on a Monday and not leave a gap here in the futures price like we did over here. And then we came back down to fill that gap, ended up coming all the way back down to that 28.8 area. They have this trend line here connecting the lows, and we can see that we almost came up to that line. So this will be another trend line I would be watching if we did come up here, and be looking to break that one also. So onto the smaller time frames. This is the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin, and just watching this EMA ribbon here. We did try to break above it, and currently we're testing the lows off the ribbon. So it would be good to see the 4-hour candle close above 33.9 and try to hold this ribbon. As we can see, we did get above it previously here. We attempted to hold it, and then we ended up breaking below and then having this bigger move down. We also did a similar thing here. So we are battling this ribbon, and it's a ribbon we need to stay above if we want to go higher. The 4-hour RSI is around the mid-range here, around 48. So it does have room to go higher. We could zigzag our way up here. The stochastic looks like it's coming down though. So I think we may come down here over these next few 4-hour candles. And I'd be looking for this green box to act as support. And just to show you how I got this green box and also these other boxes here, if we just go back in the price action here, this is on the daily chart. We look for areas where Bitcoin was in a trend and it went sideways in that trend. And quite often these areas will act as support and resistance later on. As we can see here, once we got above this green box, we stayed above it with the bodies of the candles, and then we did take off. And just looking down here, we could also do a box around this candle here. Looking at the current price action, we can see I have these other boxes drawn. And this blue box here, it's a point of indecision. We were in a downtrend and we started going sideways. And we just draw that box across, and we can see we pretty much came up to that box here and got rejected. We've come back down. You can see here acted as support with the bodies of the candles, and once we did close below this box, then we did have that big drop. And there's also one here during this uptrend, just capturing the bodies of the candles here, and also here, also on this uptrend, we went sideways in this section. So these are areas where we might get support or resistance, and once we get above one of these areas and use it as support, then quite often we see a move up to possibly another area where we may have these boxes drawn. So you can see here, we did break below here, we had this quick drop. Once we did come back above this box, we came down to test it, used it as support, and now we've come up to this second blue box here. Looking at the VPVR here on the daily, you can see we've been stuck in this range. There's lots of volume being traded in this range, and we can see this green box pretty much lines up with the bottom of the larger support here, looking at the VPVR. So we'd like to see us get support on this green box, and also off on the bottom of this trend line if we were to come down here. And looking at the volume profile just over this range here, since we dropped from 60k, we can see these spikes in the volume also line up with these boxes, and these are areas where we would expect support or resistance. You can also see the EMA ribbon here on the daily. We did try to come up into it here on this first breakout attempt and got rejected, and we are getting quite close to this ribbon now. This ribbon is at 35,880, and the top of the ribbon is all the way up at 40,500. So we'll look to break that 4-hour EMA ribbon first and stay above it. And then the big one to break is this daily ribbon. So thanks for watching. Tried to make this one a bit shorter. We'll have to keep watching the charts and see what happens over the weekend coming into next week. We also have the end of the financial year coming up, the end of the 6 month, the end of the 3 month, the end of the monthly. So I do think July will bring better news for Bitcoin in the price action, and we'll have to keep watching and see. So thanks for watching. I'm Bitcoin Mamo. See you next time. Bye.